Then finally, a very important matter, that the change of approach upon the assumption to power of the Trump administration. The Obama administration decided, along with the prosecutors in the Department of Justice, not to pursue, not to charge Julian because it embarrassed the First Amendment. That changed when Trump came to power, and in particular Mike Pompeo heading up the CIA.
I think too few journalists have woken up to the fact that this really is the sort of freedom of speech. It is the case of our times relating to the ability of journalists to report on things that governments don't want us to hear. And if our job is to, try and hold power to account, if Julian is sent to America, then the implications for newspapers and other journalists are absolutely immense. It's terrifying.
That they only wanted to hear part of his testimony. And they are objecting to the fact that objecting to the witnesses be able to talk about being tortured by the CIA.
Julian Assange! Please! Please! Julian Assange! Please! He will be free!
This afternoon it was Thomas Durkin. He's an American lawyer from Chicago, and he covered the area of penalties and plea bargaining cooperation. So they give you 175 years, but say if you give up all the names of the WikiLeaks staff and sources, then you only get 100 years or whatever absurdity they propose. The nomination of sources is a controversial problem for journalists. You never nominate your sources, you always protect them.
I'm very worried about Julian's health. I'm worried about the strain on him. He's had some level of incarceration now, really since 2010. I think the pressure on him is enormous. I think the sense that he's not receiving a fair trial and the sense of injustice. He's been kept in solitary confinement for far, far too long now. I think this is what really worries me, is the effect it's having on him personally. I think he overwhelmingly feels a sense of injustice for somebody who gets out of bed every morning, or that's what he did, feeling he was doing a public service.
This morning we heard from John Goetz from Der Spiegel about his experience working on the redaction and then publication of the documents. A few points of interest from this morning. He was very adamant that WikiLeaks had not published first the unredacted diplomatic cables, but had republished it, that they were first published by other media and other outlets.
What also worries me is in prison during lockdown, during the COVID crisis, he hasn't had proper access to his lawyers. He hasn't got proper access to a telephone. He complained about this. He phoned me a couple of months ago, and he complained about the difficulty he had in trying to follow the news about his case, communicate with his lawyers. And of course that goes back to the way a Spanish contractor was actually spying on him and his lawyers in the Ecuadorian embassy. So there seem to me to be so many irregularities with the way these things are conducted that you do have to wonder whether there's one rule for Julian and people who challenge government to the extent he has, and another rule for ourselves. And I think that's a fundamental flaw in the way we all believe our justice system should be run.
Julian Assange, right now, today, is in court in the UK fighting an extradition trial to the United States. For those who don't remember, this is the guy who's the head of WikiLeaks, right? And he really fell out of favor in 2016 because he published the Hillary emails and everything like that, or Podesta emails. But he's not being charged for that. The extradition trial has nothing to do with that. Actually, the U.S. government, under William Barr, right, the current Attorney General, is trying to extradite this guy and put him in prison for the rest of his life for the best work that WikiLeaks ever did. It has won awards in every country, basically around the planet, including the United States, which is the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs, right? Detainee records in Guantanamo Bay, things that are about explicit war crimes and abuses of power, torture and people who were killed who shouldn't have been killed, violations of use of force protocols, and all of these things, right? And this could all be made to go away if William Barr, the Attorney General, simply dropped the charges. And he should. Why is it?
Julian Assange has literally been tortured. I mean, the guy was locked in that embassy for how many years with no exposure to daylight, just completely trapped. And you've seen videos of him skateboarding around the embassy. I mean, he looks like he's going crazy in there. And now he's in jail and on trial.
Most cases where there's a national security case, they turn up a guilty plea. I think there's only 6 that haven't. But overall, there's never been a case in the United States where a publisher has been prosecuted for publishing national security items. Never been a case. This is the first one.